Home, Chapter 13. A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction written and narrated by Mira Rose. Artwork provided by XAA on Tumblr. You can find a link to the artwork in the description box below. If you haven't already, make sure to not only listen to the other 12 chapters of this story, but to subscribe and hit the bell to stay up to date on the latest parts of your favorite fanfiction. If you haven't already, give this video a like and comment embarrassment in the comment section so I know you listened to the intro. Now then, Chapter 13. Adrian nearly tore a ligament when he doubled back to get a closer look in the magazine rack he passed by. A cross-stitch magazine? That was a thing? His manager gave him a strange look and made a hurry-up gesture with her neck, but Adrian handed the magazine to the cashier and paid as quickly as he possibly could instead, not bothering to wait for the change. Tearing open the plastic, he scrounged through the pages, fascinated by what he saw. This was an art form. He didn't realize cross-stitch could look like this. He felt his cheeks burned as he realized he was standing on Rue d'Arcole with his face buried in a crafting magazine as girls and paparazzi looked on. He quickly put it away, already imagining what Gossip Girl Alia might say when the pictures hit the public. He didn't care much, but he didn't want to grab Marinette's attention. Not like that, at least. Of course he wanted Marinette's attention, but as Cat Noir. Well, also as Adrian. Wow. Having a relationship with a civilian that you know both as a superhero and as a classmate is kind of confusing, isn't it? Sigh. He caught up to his manager, a cold, annoyed expression on her face that softened when she saw what he bought. He didn't want to explain it to her, choosing instead to hustle himself into the car before she could press. Yikes. He needed to be a little more discreet about this kind of thing, didn't he? After hours of a shoot that took him out of school, Adrian turned himself into Cat Noir and made his way to the Dupang Chang household, curling up on the couch to read The Beginning After the End on tapas, waiting for Marinette to come home. To his surprise, Sabine asked for help in the kitchen, mostly because he could reach high places, and ended up making dinner with her. He couldn't place this feeling, but it was nice. Marinette was home, but her home was also home, kind of. He didn't know how to explain it. Swaddled in warm emotions, Cat enjoyed dinner despite Marinette not joining him. Her parents didn't know where she was, but didn't seem bothered that he was there without her presence. Did he want to risk this? This warmth? This tenderness of relationship between himself and people who didn't care if he was their son or not, just so he could change a title of his relationship with Marinette? Shouldn't this be enough? He was happier than he'd been in a long time, so why was it nearly antagonizing instead? "I'll go pick Marinette up," Cat said, hanging the dish towel to dry after cleaning up their meal. "Thank you, love," Sabine said, her back turned to him, like it was natural for him to do so. Oh, no. He hadn't been sun-zoned, had he? Worse yet, what if Marinette thought of him as a brother? Cat hadn't considered that. Ugh. Shaking his head to clear his doubts, he made his way downstairs, suddenly bumping into Marinette coming up from the bakery. They both landed on their bums, more surprised than injured. Thankfully, the bag she carried didn't break open, so there wasn't a mess to clean up. "Oof," she said, dusting herself off as she stood up. Extending her hand to help him up, Marinette flashed a smile that left him more lightheaded than the tumble did. "What are our plans for the day?" Cat asked. beating you in a round of Mario Kart." Her smirk made him chuckle. "You wish. Where were you today?" "A friend of mine is convinced she's sister-zoned, and I had to tell her there's no such thing." "Sister-zoned?" "The guy she likes treats her like a little sister. She's horrified, but really, there's no such thing. Rather, it's the same as being a friend you view as being close to, but wouldn't develop romantic feelings for." "I don't know. I feel the brother zone exists," Kat said, choosing his words carefully. Marinette rolled her eyes. Intimacy isn't always physical. Someone treating you like a brother or sister is a form of intimacy. Wouldn't you agree? But if it feels like a sibling, then there just isn't a spark. I wouldn't call that sister-zoned. Oh, so he wasn't brother-zoned. She just didn't feel a spark. Somehow that knowledge made him feel worse than believing in a term that was probably coined on Reddit. "So it's safe to assume I'm not brother-zoned?" Kat stepped in front of her, his arm resting on the wall above her to stop their ascent upstairs. He managed to deliver the line in a joking manner, but his heart beat like crazy as he waited for an answer. If he was wearing a Fitbit, it would surely tell him he's in the fat-burning zone. She stared at him, unblinking, 2 steps below before sighing. "You're the one who calls this place home." "Huh?" Kat felt a blush spreading out from under his mask and above his collar. "Don't think I haven't seen your cross-stitch." "Oh, camembert." Dread crept into his heart. Forget the fat-burning zone. His BPM may as well be 0 because her sentence left him deceased. She saw it? How? He'd only ever worked on his ladybug handkerchief when she was around. Numb to what she was saying, Kat thought about the cross-stitch in question. Home is where Marinette is. He wanted to practice lettering, so he picked up a "Home is where your cat is" cross-stitch set. But as it got later in the evening, he'd had the sleep-deprived idea of stitching Marinette instead. It was probably the best stitching he'd done so far, but he'd never planned on showing it to anyone. How had she found it? Rather, how did she see it? She'd passed out after a Mario Party session between herself, him, and Tom when he was working on it. Ugh! Kat felt even more humiliated by the mock Capadon pose he held over her. Thankfully, she chuckled and chose to walk past him, leaving him posing with his arm on the wall and unable to uncross his leaning leg pose as he felt sweat prickle a now uncomfortable magic spandex suit. He needed a word stronger than camembert to use as he peeled himself off the wall and trudged upstairs. Actually, no. Kat wasn't going to go back upstairs. He was too embarrassed for that. He'd neglected his Adrian duties for too long, and it was time to catch up. Sighing to himself, because he knew it was an excuse to avoid a potentially awkward scenario, Kat went back to his bedroom at the manor, de-transforming to study and get a little piano practice in. Adrian's cheeks were still burning by bedtime, and all he wanted to do was text Marinette goodnight, but he couldn't. That would be weird, right? Getting a goodnight text randomly from a classmate, and a guy that had a girlfriend, no less. Ugh. He needed to find an excuse to explain the cross-stitch she'd seen, and quickly. Shutting his eyes, Adrian begged sleep to come. Not because he was sad or lonely, because he wasn't feeling either of those things in the moment. Oh, no. Adrian wanted a date with Mr. Sandman because he couldn't stand his own embarrassment. But oh, if only he knew how embarrassed he would be in the morning. Thank you so much for listening. Chapter 14 is on its way, and I will see you in that next part. If you've listened all the way, make sure to comment Cross Stitch Magazine in the comments section. But also, if you want to leave your own original comment, that's super cool. I love and I look forward to reading those from you guys. I will catch you in chapter 14. Bye! Also, don't forget to subscribe. Okay, thanks. Bye.